Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this June 28th finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. Temperature and rainfall outlooks this morning, I would consider my 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 day temperature forecast as a little bit warmer than what I showed yesterday, while I have pared back the heat to some degree in the 11 to 15 day time frame. 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day rainfall forecast, not a whole lot different than yesterday. Still not much confidence in the details of either of those time frames. QPF discussion looking at just the 1 to 3 day time frame this morning. I think that this forecast is a bit too wet. I think that the coverage of 1.5 to 2.5 plus inch rains that they are showing there in Iowa looks a little bit overdone, and I would also have those bigger rains a little bit further west than what the map shows. No disagreement with the big rain shown in North Dakota. A lot of that rainfall going to be occurring during the next 24 hours. For the day 4 to 5 and day 6 to 7 time frame, this is where the rainfall forecast details become very, very uncertain. Both of these maps would be largely based on the overnight GFS model. The European model would be drier in both periods. I would think that overall rainfall coverage in both periods probably less than shown, but localized range probably bigger than the maps show. High temperatures yesterday, still relatively decent conditions across the Corn Belt, but note the extreme heat that was seen yesterday in the southern plains, and obviously that heat is coming northeastward during the next 2-week time frame. 18-hour rainfall totals, some rain from our upper level low yesterday in eastern portions of the Corn Belt, some rains yesterday morning from some ring of fire activity in portions of South Dakota, and you can see where the ring of fire activity has been since 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. You can see a couple of areas, again that area in South Dakota from yesterday morning, and we're starting to see some activity firing this morning in portions of Missouri. Overall, not a lot of confidence in how the rainfall situation is going to be going in the Corn Belt during the daytime hours for today. You can still see that some ring of fire activity is still trying to ongo this morning in Missouri, and really I would not completely rule out rainfall activity during the day today in portions of the southwestern Corn Belt, but overall should be significant just on a localized basis like what we're seeing there in Missouri. A lot of the southwestern Corn Belt going to be missing out, and that is going to be the case for a lot of the Corn Belt. Anything that is seen for today and tomorrow, very isolated to widely scattered in nature. The vast majority of the Corn Belt going to be seeing nothing for today and also for tomorrow. That's certainly not going to be the case in the northern plains. You can see from the severe weather outlook there on the left with a big area of enhanced risk in North Dakota, and from the excessive rainfall outlook there on the right, a moderate risk of excessive rains in southwestern North Dakota, that North Dakota in particular should be seeing some big rainfall amounts here during the next 24 hours. The next notable rainfall event for the Corn Belt is indeed going to be in western areas, and no change in the forecast there. Still looks like late Saturday and into Saturday night as a cool front moves into the western and northwestern Corn Belt. We will be seeing a significant rainfall event at that time, impacting especially central and western Iowa, northwestern Missouri, northeastern Kansas, eastern portions of Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, about anywhere in Minnesota, and into northwestern Wisconsin. All of those areas under the gun for significant and even locally heavy rainfall amounts, and again the best amounts for late Saturday and into Saturday night. As we get towards next week, though, that is when the forecast details become very, very uncertain. It's hard to believe that we're going to be seeing anything close to a widespread rainfall event for next week, and I think that it is a situation where you will see rather significant portion of the Corn Belt go through all of next week, seeing little or nothing in the way of rainfall. But it's not going to be totally dry either. You can see that looking at surface features as of 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, all of the models are in some agreement that there would be at least some rainfall somewhere in the Corn Belt at that time. And it is a situation that I think that on any day next week there can be some rain in some portion of the Corn Belt on any day. I think that overall, though, that rainfall is going to be very widely scattered in nature, producing significant totals on a localized basis, but with the activity being so scattered in nature, again, there will be portions of the Corn Belt next week that go through that entire 1-week time frame seeing little or nothing in the way of rainfall. As far as temperatures are concerned, still looking at the first notable period of heat coming up for tomorrow and into the weekend period. Looking at your temperature anomalies for tomorrow, big area of temperatures running 10 degrees above normal across a sizable portion of the Corn Belt. That type of heat then moving more towards eastern portion of the Corn Belt for the weekend period. High temperatures for tomorrow, you can see an extensive area of 90 plus degree heat all across the Corn Belt with some 95 plus degree readings in the south and southwest. Already today we will be seeing seeing 90 plus degree readings reaching about the southwestern half to as much as 2/3 of the Corn Belt region. But we'll be seeing some cooling then taking place with the cool front moving into western and northwestern portions of the Corn Belt for the weekend. You can see that by the time we get to Sunday, any 90 plus degree heat by that time is confined to just southern and eastern portions of the Corn Belt. That cool down though will not be lasting for long. Looking at high temperatures for July 5th as just an example, there's going to be plenty of days like this next week, especially for Tuesday and beyond, in which 90 to 95 plus degree heat is going to be very widespread all across the Corn Belt region. Again, it is a situation where I am really impressed with the magnitude of what overnight lows are going to be like with this upcoming shot of hot air. Looking at low temperatures already for tomorrow, you can see that 70 plus degree lows are very common across the Corn Belt, and once again a situation where some portions of the plain states and into the southwestern Corn Belt struggle to see lows below the 80 degree mark, and there could very well be places in the southwestern Corn Belt that do not get below 80 degrees tomorrow morning. Even this morning, it was at 4 o'clock in the morning, it was still 82 degrees at Topeka, Kansas, to give it just an example of how warm the overnight low situation is going to be with this coming warm up. Looking at low temperatures for July 5th, I think, again, this is just kind of a snapshot of what we're going to be seeing on several mornings in the 6 to 10 day time frame. Note that most of the nation to the east of the Rockies are going to be seeing 70 to 75 plus degree overnight lows in that time frame. Again, it should be a situation where such lows are seen on a very common and widespread basis throughout the 6 to 10 day time frame, if not for a little bit longer than that. Looking at a kind of a dome watch here for this morning. This is a look at the 500 millibars as of 7 o'clock in the morning on 7 o'clock in the evening, I should say, on Sunday. You can see that the dome of high pressure at that time, very impressive, 594 heights over the megalopolis portion of the northeastern United States. The dome of high pressure is still expected to move westward or retrograde over time. Looking at the dome of high pressure for 7 o'clock in the morning on the 4th of July, note that the dome has expanded to become very impressive, 594 heights at that time, covering a big portion of the Corn Belt and into the northeastern United States. When you have a dome of high pressure like that at that time, I guess it makes sense to see above normal temperatures on a widespread basis, B, very warm overnight lows, and C, your rainfall activity suppressed. Really, any sort of ring of fire activity at that time should be just in northwestern fringes of the Corn Belt and into the areas north of there, with anything right underneath the dome very spotty in nature. Again, though, the dome will continue to move westward with time. Looking at 500 millibar features as of 7 o'clock in the evening on Friday, July 6th, finds that the dome of high pressure at that time moved more towards western portions of the nation, and then it moves even further west than that. Looking at the period for late in the 11 to 15 day period, dome of high pressure at that time taking its rather normal summertime location in the Four Corners region of the southwestern United States. You can see that especially the Canadian and GFS models, but to some extent the European model as well, has a northwesterly flow at that time. It doesn't have to rain in a situation like that, but it is a northwesterly flow in the summertime that the maps are depicting right there, that is typically a summertime rainfall pattern that ends up being wetter than the models would suggest. So maybe some diminishing of rainfall chances in the Corn Belt for the 6 to 10 day time frame and into the early portion of the 11 to 15 day period as the dome of high pressure, as it moves westward, is centered over the Corn Belt during that time frame. Don't think that it will go completely dry, but again, a big portion of the Corn Belt in the 6 to 10 day period can see very limited rainfall amounts. And then as we get towards the latter portion of the 11 to 15 day period, as more of a northwesterly flow aloft becomes established once again, that should be when the rainfall chances once again increase for the Corn Belt region. Internationally, let's look first of all at high temperatures yesterday and 24-hour rainfall yesterday for the corn growing areas of the former Soviet Union. Note the heat that was seen yesterday in the southern district of Russia, upper 90s and low 100s. That was about the second or third day in a row in which they saw that type of heat. Note that we did see some rainfall the last 24 hours though in Ukraine. A number of places are seeing a half inch of rainfall or even more than that. 6 to 10 day temperature anomalies. The heat that we saw yesterday in Southern District is going to be continuing for another 2 to 3 days, but then notice in the 6 to 10 day period how much cooler the weather pattern will become. In fact, this cool weather will start to move into the corn growing areas of Russia for late in the 1 to 5 day time frame, and then exceptionally cooler than the normal temperatures, especially in Ukraine, for the 6 to 10 day period. So a couple of more days of extreme heat, especially in Southern District, then those areas even there will cool down for the 6 to 10 day period. As far as rainfall anomalies are concerned, for those eastern row crop areas of the former Soviet Union, the rainfall forecast clearly not what they need. Below normal rainfall going to be seen there during the next 2 weeks. Any rains that are seen there for the next 10 days, very modest in nature for eastern Ukraine and areas east of there with rainfall amounts of under a half inch. Your better rain staying to the west of there with some very nice amounts, especially in the 1 to 5 day time frame for about the western half of Ukraine and areas to the north of there. Still not an overly wet pattern for Europe either. Dry conditions will continue for England, France, and Germany for another 3 days, and then after that, any decent rains mainly confined to central and southern portions of France, where they can see some half to 1 inch rainfall amounts in the 6 to 10 day time frame. No changes in the spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union. Nice rain is going to be continuing there for the next 10 days. No changes over in China, near to above normal rainfall all across the summer row crop areas of Manchuria and the North China Plain. No changes in Canada. Very favorable forecast coming up there for the next 10 days to 2 weeks, with normal to above normal rainfall, probably your best rains in that time frame in eastern Saskatchewan and especially in Manitoba. In Australia, did see some better than expected rains over the last 24 hours in New South Wales. I was looking for mainly 1/4 to 3/4 inch rainfall amounts, but you can see that there was a pocket there in northern portion of New South Wales where there were some rainfall amounts, notably more than an inch. Also saw some rains as expected yesterday in some of the western winter wheat areas of Australia. As far as the 10-day forecast is concerned, the forecast is not especially wet for those eastern winter wheat areas of Australia, but are still looking at some very nice rains coming up for Western Australian wheat areas. Those rains will be mainly occurring for the Sunday through Wednesday time frame of next week. Finally, for this morning in India, with regards to their monsoon, not an especially robust monsoon over the next 2 weeks. Look for the monsoon to be especially weak in the 6 to 10 day time frame. Relatively decent activity going to be seen for the 1 to 5 and 11 to 15 day periods. That's what I have for your Thursday. Everyone have themselves a great day.